Hello everybody, welcome back to my epic gaming channel. Today we are going to do some arts and crafts. And by arts and crafts, I mean we are going to try and reform, revamp, thrift flip, except not really thrift, just flip this pile of clothes that I have set aside for a few months because they're clothes that are either not wearable or I don't wear anymore, or I don't want to wear them in the state that they are in because I don't like the way they look on me, or I don't like the way I feel in them. Let me do a quick little rundown. First of all, we have this pair of pants, trousers that I got from my sister a few years ago, and I love these. I literally wore them any chance I got. Basically, they were like my token going out pants, as in anytime I left my house, I was probably wearing these. Love them, except about a year ago, I was doing some funky little stunts because I'm a stunts person apparently, and they ripped down the crotch. They ripped down the crotch. Thankfully, I was still at home. They tore pretty badly, and I have been clinging to them for a year. My plan with this is either to turn it into like a top of sorts or a skirt. This dress from heYy style. It's very nice. I really like the print. I am a sucker for most floral prints. I wore it once and then never again. I got it a few years ago because I just didn't like the way it looked on me. The shoulder straps let this hang a little too low for my liking, and just overall I wasn't like really a fan of the silhouette, I guess is the fancy fashion girly term. I tried literally everything I could with this. I'm gonna try and turn it into like a skirt. And the next is yet
another dress from heYy style.
Pretty much all the same problems. I cut the straps in half and tied a little tie on them, but it still just wasn't working. Wasn't like really in love with it. But I like the fabric, so I'm gonna try and turn this into a skirt as well, or a top. I haven't really decided. And then last, this pair of trousers, again from my sister. The little eyelet that is supposed to be holding these together, it just hasn't been there. It like ripped off, but I really like this color. They've got this like little tie detail that I actually really like. I'm not a fan of the fact that it's in the front and then the zipper is in the back. Like, that's a weird design, but interesting enough, I guess. That's pretty much the only thing that needs fixing for these. So yeah, let's get started. I've grabbed the family token candy treats containers turned into sewing materials containers. I have these. They've got the sewing materials because we don't have a sewing machine, so we're gonna do all this by hand, and it's gonna be fun and it's gonna be great. We're gonna start easy by fixing these because we just need to sew on like a little hook, and hopefully that will help our confidence a little bit. Confidence booster project. So obviously the first thing I did was look for the hook. The J hook is apparently what it's called, and I was surprised we could just have a bag of them. And then I laid it onto the other side where the hook is supposed to be to see kind of where I wanted it to be so it wouldn't leave any weird like gaps or tugging. And then I noticed that the eye was actually a little loose, so I went ahead and tried my best to like tighten it up, make it more secure. The J hook, tell me why this was so much more complicated than I expected. Like, I expected it to take 5, maybe 10 minutes max. Tell me why it took 20 minutes. Anyway, finally finished with that, and it was secure and everything. With these, I noticed that after you hook the hook, there's still this weird gap, but I thought I would try and maybe fix it by tying the strings in the back, and it kind of worked, but I don't know how I feel about that. But overall, the mobility is not bad. The pockets, you know, it's nice to have pockets. They're a little high-waisted, like crazy high-waisted. I do feel a little bit like the penguin in them, and they tend to hike up, but it's not like I'm gonna be doing crazy gymnastics in them, but I do like them, and they are comfortable. So the first step with this navy blue dress was cutting the straps off, which I had sewn on myself to create like a little tie to make it more form-fitting and not to toot my own horn or anything. But I did a pretty good job with these because those straps, they were secure, and maybe it was like the insane amount of thread I used or whatever, but you'll see that that's a common trend around here. But then I just cut above the tape so that there was like, you know, seam allowance or whatever. Then I turned the dress inside out so I could, you know, sew the hem or whatever the way I wanted. Still no safety pins, so I'm gonna try and tape down the hem where I want it and then like kind of stitch a little bit above it and just hope that the tape sticks. This is kind of roughly what the stitching on the inside of the hem looks like, and this is what it looks like on the outside. This doesn't fit me, and kind of I guess in an effort to disguise how obviously not skilled stitching this is, I might just go with elastic, and also because the elastic seems, I've got these elastics that came in literally yesterday because I think ahead and I'm like, DIY projects, I'm gonna need these. I'm gonna say or think that I don't need them, but better safe than sorry, and I bought them. So to put in the elastic, what I'm gonna do is, if I can find the hem please, I'm gonna like cut this open a little bit and then kind of shimmy this through and then sew the ends of this together first and then sew up the seam again, and hopefully it will fit better and do a nice little scrunchy thing like this is doing. I don't know, I've never used an elastic before or sewed an elastic before, so we're doing a lot of fuss together today. My only issue with this skirt is the waistband. I wish I made it just a little bit tighter so that the scrunchiness was still there. And it's not too big of an issue, but it does, I feel like it looks a little bit weird, but not too bad. Overall, I do like it if we ignore the waistband. I like the length, the twirlability is great, mobility is awesome, flows well, etc., etc. And I think it looks good, just maybe not in this angle. So this was one of the projects I was most excited for. I started by cutting each of the legs off, and you know, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, it might have been easier if I had fabric scissors. But anyway, I wanted to create a little pleated effect, so I thought that the graph design was really helpful for this because I could just like, you know, align them. The fabric pieces were an interesting shape already, like since when I cut them off, and I cut them in half also, by the way, so that they were like open, but I thought I could make it work by sewing them together like this and creating an asymmetric effect. We'll see how that turns out, but yeah, the stitching wasn't bad, but it wasn't good, and this took a long time and a lot of thread, but I eventually got something that I thought worked, and then I tried to align it and find a way to sew it back on, and we faced the first of many problems. I needed to find a way to take in the sides to fit the pleated section without ruining the pockets, but I couldn't, so I decided to just cut it and work with it. Okay, so it's been several hours, at least 3, because I went through a 3-hour playlist while I was doing this alone, and I was telling myself trust the process the entire time, but I don't know if I really do. So I was like, let's do a first reveal together. So this is the back. I know it really, I don't know how I feel about it right now, but we're gonna flip it inside out and see how it goes. I'm kind of scared. I was really looking forward to this. Like, I mean, okay. It looks pretty bad. It looks freaking awful. Actually, let me try it on.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't.
Let me just tuck this in. My circulation is getting cut off right here. You know what? It's okay. It's okay. I'm not mad. I'm a little like, what the heck? I just wasted so many hours hyping myself over this, being like, trust the process. It'll look great. I'm gonna work with this tomorrow, and instead of trying to fix the mess I've made, because I cannot fathom trying to fix it and only to make it worse, I'm gonna try and make this into like a tote bag of sorts, because that's what I was gonna do with the scraps anyway, and now I just have more to work with. But first review. Oh, my circulation. So I went ahead, tried this on inside out, finally found safety pins, so I marked about where else I want to cut this, because I decided I kind of want to try and make this into like a shirt moment. And then I also kind of marked with tape where I like kind of want the cutout to be cut off, because I want to be able to tuck this in as well if I feel like it, you know. I prefer like wider straps. And to replace that, I have this bag of like old scrunchies that don't scrunch anymore, so I'm probably gonna replace it, like cut half, put it here instead. And a lot of these have like this cool like ruffly detail on the edge, like spinny, or like, you know, this sort. So yeah, I'm gonna go through and see which one I think will look best with this. I want something that's like neutral but like a little bit of a pop of color. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and cut off where I want the hem to be, just so I have less fabric to work with. And then I'm gonna try and take in the sides so that's not so loose. Let's hope I don't mess this up. Okay, so this entire time I was wondering why this ended up shorter than I expected it to be, especially when I put the tape lower than I wanted it to be. But it turns out I cut above the tape rather than below the tape. I don't know why I did that, but yeah, I did that and it ended up shorter than I wanted it to be. But you know, it was at least still a good length, so I'm not too mad at it. I drew a line down both sides with a blue chalk marker, just so I have a line to follow while I'm taking in the sides. I think this was a pretty genius idea, I'm not gonna lie, and it turned out better than I expected also. And then I cut off the excess from the sides after trying it on, making sure I liked the fit, just so, you know, there was less bulk on the sides. But I made sure not to cut off too much, just in case later on down the side I want more space, because it is a little bit tight, but like not uncomfortably so, but just in case. I thankfully found these matching brown scrunchies in my bag of scrunchies, so I decided to cut them off. And I faced a little bit of a problem here, and that was that the beads, the swirly twirly part at the top, was actually connected through like this little plasticky wire or something, and so the beads started falling off, and I had to find a way to make sure that that didn't happen. And this entire thing took much longer than it should have, but I eventually figured it out after like 30 minutes. I really like the way this turned out. I think it looks nice tucked in and left out. The straps do get a little bit itchy over time, but it's not too big of an issue. It does get a little bit annoying, but it's okay.